So, Van Gogh's Starry Night is one of the most famous paintings in the world, and today I'm going to be recreating it in crayon.
Wreck it, watch it, do it.
So, this video took hours to make, so please consider subscribing. It's super easy and free, and it helps me out a ton. Plus, it only takes about 2 seconds. To begin, I started off by making the large spire or dark pillar or whatever it is on the left side of the paper. Now, this took me a little while because it was really hard to find the exact shape, and as you can see probably later in the video, I worked with a reference image because there's no way to do it exactly from memory, and it would have been way too hard to try to figure it out on my own. But back to the spire, I added colors like brown, yellow, and gray to add more kind of contrast to it instead of just the big black spire there that you see. After that, I started working on the greenery on the left side of the spire. Now, this greenery looked a little bit like lettuce, so I used a light green color and then shaded over it with a darker green to give it a nice hue. After that, I started working on the small village to the right of it. Now, I'm sure this village wasn't actually that small, but from where the point of view is, it really looks tiny. So I made the houses tinier in contrast to the large spire, and I used darker colors like dark blue and black to make it look really dark, like the original. The original was painted during a nighttime, so it looks way darker than it would have in the day, and unfortunately Crayola doesn't offer a ton of super dark colors, so the best I could do was use normal colors and then color over it in either gray or black. Following that, I added the rolling hills that you see in the background to the left and right of the houses. Now, these were a purplish color, so I used a blue and purple crayon and then colored over it with gray. And then I added tints of yellow and other colors to make it look good. Following that, I worked on the houses on the right side of the rolling hills. And these ones were very similar to the first, except they had an almost towering design, kind of like Lost Mesa, if you've ever seen that. So the church in Van Gogh's Starry Night is probably one of the most important buildings because it stands out from the rest of the darker colors, since this is a light white with a little hint of blue. So it took me a little while to get this perfectly, but I think after a bit and adjustments to the spire later on, I was able to get it. After the church, I continued drawing the houses and added more colors to them. Eventually, I finished up the rolling hills using green and blue colors. Now, the colors blue and green don't really blend together by themselves, so I added tints of purple and yellow and colors in between them to make them work together. As you can see, I used a lot of different colors inside the rolling hills, and it ended up looking really great. Now, it's not the same as the original, because like I said earlier, Crayola does not have a lot of dark variants colors. The closest thing I could find to the dark blue that they used was Outer Space, and that crayon even then looked more like black than it did blue. The large mountains in the background were actually pretty easy to draw because they were just a couple of lines and I only had to take a few measurements using my fingers. The hardest part was coloring it in to make it the right color. I used a little bit of shading technique that I learned in art class on the mountains with the black crayon, and then I filled it in with a dark blue crayon and coated it over it in gray. Next up, I started using a dark yellow crayon in order to make the moon and stars, and then I used a lighter yellow in order to color around it as kind of a glow effect. After this, I started outlining the stars with blue crayon, and then I started working on the sky. I colored it in with a very light blue first, and then started working on darker and darker colors to make up the type of sky. Now, Van Gogh has a very unique style of art, and so it's hard to match this perfectly, but I think the strokes that I used for the crayon, going left to right, matched it pretty well. I also added a lot of purple and darker colors like gray to the sky as well, just because as of now it looks like you're looking at it at the daytime, and it was painted during the night. So to make the nighttime effect, a lot of dark colors were needed. I started etching out almost the wave in the sky using a black crayon so that it stood out from the other blue crayon that I used, and then I also added darker colors to that as well. By going over it with a white crayon, like you can see I did earlier and now, it helped bring out the colors because it added almost a white tint. And you can't really tell that I did it because the page is white and it doesn't show up on the other crayon, but it still looked nicer as opposed to the other. Finally, I added a few more finishing touches and touched up the rest of the painting, and with that we were finished. So here is my painting, and then here is Van Gogh's Starry Night. And if you want, you guys can leave a comment down below letting me know how I did. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to click here to subscribe. And then these two are my latest videos, so you might as well go check them out. They're super fun.